Welcome back to the TeckWrapCraft Vinyl channel. Today we're looking ahead to Valentine's Day as it's just right around the corner. So whether you need to get a gift for a friend, a family member, a neighbor, a teacher, this is going to be a great option for you. Today we're going to be making this super cute heart love image on a skinny tumbler. You could do this on any cup or tumbler that you've got. You could even put this on a card or a wood sign, anything that you would want to gift to somebody. I like the concept of the tumbler or a glass because you can open it up and fill it up with the person's favorite candy, a gift card, or anything else that you would want to put inside and gift alongside of a great tumbler. For this project, I'll be using my TeckWrapCraft vinyl in Sweet Pink, Piggy Pink, and Mirror Chrome Wine Red. I'll also be utilizing some transfer tape from TeckWrap as well. Once you have your materials together, the next step is to find your image that you love in Cricut Design Space or your other design software. I'm going to take each layer and adjust it for the color of my vinyl so I can make sure that I like the way these look together. I'm also going to create an offset with Cricut Design Space so that there's a background to my image. This is just personal preference, but because I'm using a white tumbler, I really want these pinks to pop. Next, I'm going to cut a piece of vinyl off of each roll for each color based on what I need for this project. Cricut Design Space and a straight line cutter are super helpful to figure out exactly what size we need. The high quality vinyl from TeckWrap is super easy to work with. It cuts very cleanly. And there's also a protective layer on each roll of vinyl. You'll want to make sure you remove that protective layer before you put it onto your mat and into your cutting machine. You wouldn't want to leave the protective layer on. It would create an extra amount of depth for your cutting machine to have to cut through. And it would probably be pretty difficult to remove during your weeding. So make sure you take off that layer before you put it onto your mat to give yourself an easier project. I am loving the way that these colors are going together, and I can't wait to see how this project turns out. After I've cut the colors that I need, I'm going to place each one on a cutting mat and then place that into my cutting machine according to the order to which Cricut says that we are cutting. And then I'm going to take my mat with my vinyl adhered to it and add it to my cutting machine and let it do the work. I love the way this mirror chrome looks. It's just such a fun craft vinyl to work with. For my pink vinyls, I'm using premium vinyl settings and using more pressure with my Cricut Joy machine. And with the mirror chrome, I'm using holographic vinyl settings. These settings worked really well for an easy to weed project, which is super important for some frustration-free crafting. You could still do a very similar type project if you don't have a cutting machine. You could utilize some hearts out of construction paper, tape them to the back of your vinyl, and then cut out hearts out of your vinyl in various sizes, and then layer them together on your tumbler or other object that you're placing the vinyl onto. It won't be quite the same, but it will still be a great project and a great gift for someone that truly comes from the heart. I love the way that the TeckWrap weeds so well. This little leopard type heart print is so fun and super great for Valentine's Day. I love how easy it is to weed TeckWrapCraft vinyl, whether you're using a weeding tool or these tweezers. They are super sharp, so make sure you watch out with your fingers and making sure that you don't cut your skin. But sharp tools are super helpful for weeding super quickly and efficiently. I'm already thinking through how many other fun colors I could do this print in and how many other people in my life would really love this Valentine's Day tumbler. We would love it if you would drop a comment and let us know who you're crafting for this Valentine's Day and what it is about your relationship with them that means so much to you. This is a little bit more time consuming of a weeding project, but for me, weeding is so therapeutic. There's just something about the process and watching your image come to life that's just so fun and makes weeding just good for the soul. It can be difficult to make sure that you get every piece of your vinyl weeded well. And I find that a desk lamp or even placing the backing with the vinyl still on it over your phone screen lit up can also be really helpful to identify anything that you've missed. You can also adjust your overhead lights to make it more feasible to see your different layers of vinyl, and be sure to utilize Cricut Design Space or your other cutting design software to make sure you know which pieces are meant to be weeded and which need to be left behind. Now, let's quickly weed the rest of this, and there we go. Now we're ready to layer. For the layering, I'll be using my transfer tape from TeckWrap. I'm simply going to measure out how much of the transfer tape I will need in one single piece, and then I'll use my scissors and cut it down to size. I'm going to try to use just one piece of transfer tape for all of these layers and see how that works. I'll make sure that it's going to fit over the largest piece of my material, and then I'll remove the backing off of the transfer tape and then place the transfer tape very carefully over my image. I find that if I bend the transfer tape in the middle, I get a really clean lay on top of my vinyl. I'll utilize my squeegee and make sure all of my pieces are being stuck really well to the transfer tape and that there are no bubbles. This might feel like an unnecessary step, but this can really aid you in having some frustration-free crafting, especially when it comes to adding multiple layers together. I'm then going to remove the backing off of this piece of my vinyl, and it's pretty easy to see on the backing which pieces of the vinyl have been really stuck down to the transfer tape and released from the backing very well. If you have a mistake, just remember to go slow, put your backing back on, and utilize your squeegee if you need to in order to get the pieces exactly where they need to be on the transfer tape. This step is really important when it comes to layering so that all of your vinyl ends up in the right place when you go to layer it onto the next layer. I love the visibility that I have through the transfer tape from TeckWrap. It really makes it helpful to be able to see exactly where I'm placing things and make sure that the layering is going on exactly where it should be. For me, this is probably the most anxiety-producing part of the process, but making sure that I line this up just perfectly is so important for that final image. I'll then use my squeegee and make sure that everything is laying flat and exactly where it should be with no air bubbles. Once I've completed that, I will then grab my last piece of vinyl. This was my offset piece, or what's becoming my background on my tumbler, and I will weed out the excess vinyl, and I'm actually going to put this down on my cutting mat to give me a flat, firm surface to be able to place my layers onto. It will also hold this piece in place, which will be really helpful for being able to line up my layers exactly where they're supposed to be. I'm now going to take my top layers and remove the backing from that darker pink piece of vinyl and get this ready to be placed onto the offset. Here's a technique that might work for you if you're having trouble removing the backing, is take your squeegee and pull up the corner of the backing and drag your squeegee as you pull up the backing. The squeegee will help to push the vinyl onto the transfer tape and release it from the backing. This is really helpful if you have very intricate cuts or very small pieces of vinyl to secure onto your transfer tape. Crafting should be frustration-free, and this is another way that you can find stress-free crafting. Remember to go slow, and you'll eventually get to the end where you have no more backing stuck onto vinyl. And you'll be able to pick up that piece of transfer tape and begin to line up your top layers onto your background or your bottom layer. This alignment is a little bit more tricky considering I don't have words to be able to line up within layers, but you'll simply just want to eyeball things and make sure that the amount that the background layer sticks out around the other layers is even and consistent across your image. You'll then want to use your squeegee tool and make sure that there are no air bubbles and that your top layers are sitting flat on your bottom layer. You can then remove the image with the backing on it still from your cutting mat and then very carefully remove your backing to your image, and then you're ready to place it onto your tumbler or other piece. I also love utilizing a offset or a background piece because it really helps when you go to apply it to your tumbler. I like to put my scissors and my squeegee against my tumbler to keep it from rolling so I can make sure that I get things centered up perfectly. I'm going to start with placing my image in the middle and then utilize a little bit of a rolling action to make sure that I'm smoothing out my image very carefully, very smoothly, starting at the middle and working to the sides. You can use a squeegee tool if you would like at this step. I think that's really important to do as well. It's a little bit more difficult on a rounded object like a tumbler, but it still comes in super handy to get out all of those air bubbles and make sure that the permanent vinyl can really adhere to the object you're placing it onto. And then the final step is just simply to peel up your transfer tape. I find that TeckWrap's transfer tape is really great at releasing cold of your vinyl as long as you've made sure that your vinyl is really stuck down to the layers beneath of it or to the tumbler itself. Again, go slow and you should have some very frustration-free crafting. I'm loving the way that this has turned out. I love all of these colors together and that mirror chrome just really shines. Start to finish, this was about a 20-minute project, which is super quick and easy, especially if you have a last-minute gift that you need to get together. So there you have it. That's all of the steps that we took to make this skinny tumbler for Valentine's Day. I hope you've had fun with us and learned something along the way. Be sure to leave a comment below and let us know what you'd like to see next.